Korea is in deep sorrow after the Sewol ferry accident. We will talk about the atmosphere of condolence consumers and companies are voluntarily taking part. U.S. President Barack Obama visits Korea for the fourth time. What are the bilateral economic cooperation measures the two sides have agreed on during the summit with President Park Geun-hye? There is a magical technology that creates unwithering flowers. What is the preservation technology Korea developed for the third time in the world? Of the countless information on the internet, this service selects only the already verified contents useful to us, the emergence of social curation. What characteristics does North Korean art, represented by Joseon painting, have? Also, how are these works of art being used in idolizing their regime?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to a very somber Bizline. Koreans are devastated by the ongoing Sewol ferry disaster. As more bodies rise to the surface, the death toll among these tragically young victims continues to rise. And this tragedy has impacted almost every area of Korean life, and that includes business. We open the show by taking a look at a voluntary condolence movement underway in the consumer sector.
On April 16, 2014, a ferry carrying 476 passengers on way to the island of Jeju capsized, taking more than 300 lives with it. Many on board were high school students on a school trip, which made the tragedy even more devastating. The entire nation was shocked and fell into great sorrow. Many had prayed for their safe rescue and return to their families. People began tying yellow ribbons nationwide, hoping for the prayer to be fulfilled.
굉장히 슬프고 다 남의 일 같지 않고 같이 안산에서 학교를 다니는데 되게 제 일 같아서 너무 슬픕니다.
저 자신이 어떻게 해야 될지 어른의 한 사람으로서 부끄럽기 짝이 없습니다. 참 안타깝습니다. 유족들의 아픔을 빨리 치유되고 빨리 용기를 얻었으면 합니다.
As the nation is mourning over the loss of the precious lives, people's spending patterns have changed as well. They are not going out for entertainment and pleasure as they used to. Sales at large supermarkets dropped by 3.9% on year since the Sewol ferry accident. Department store sales have also decreased despite the regular sale season. Leisure activities and related spending have dropped noticeably. On the weekend following the accident, ticket sales at movie theaters dropped by over 30%, and amusement park admissions fell by 20%. However, TV viewing rose substantially. As people awaited for any good news of possible survivors, they watched the rescue work on television.
사건 나고 나서부터는 좀 일체 문화생활 같은 거를 조금 줄이는 게 아니라 거의 안 했고요, 사실. 그리고 뭐 소비 생활을 하든가 이런 것도 사실 좀 많이 신경이 쓰여가지고 좀 하기가 그랬던 것 같아요.
당연하죠. 누군들 즐겁게 먹고 마시고 할 수 있겠어요. 그러나 저희들 입장에서도 물론 손님을 줄었지만은 장사 뭐 많이 해야 되겠다, 오늘 많이 팔아야 되겠다 그런 생각은 많이 없어진 것 같아요. 없어지고 오히려 내가 돈을 번다고 가게에서 자리를 지켜야 되는가라는 생각이 더 들고 그래요.
Indeed, volunteers rushed to the site to help any way they can see to ease the pain the families of the victims are going through. Volunteers did not think twice about their lives.
우리도 뭔가 좀 도와야 되지 않느냐. 그냥 보고 있기만은 너무 안타깝다 이래서 우리가 도울 수 있는 길은 저 택시기사들이니까 택시로 유아족이나 학생들, 단원고 학생들을 좀 도와주자 해서 자발적으로 모였습니다. 그래서 그 학생들이 이 큰 고통을 겪는데 저희가 이 운송수단밖에 도와줄 게 없다고 생각해서 그래 돕고 있습니다.
Credit card revenue is an indication of consumption activity, and it shows that people are not spending as much. Their revenue from the previous week shows a drop of up to 9.5%. Substantial drop in domestic spending since the Great Disaster shows how united the nation has become, a strong unity traditionally felt in Korea.
그리고 워낙에 이제 저희는 땅덩어리가 좁은 데다가 단일 민족의 그런 성격이 강하다 보니까 아주 국민적인 그 어떤 하나의 현상이 확산되는 속도가 아주 빠릅니다. 그 폭도 상당히 크고요. 이번 세월호 이 침몰 사고는 국민들의 이 감정에 있어서 아주 파급 효과가 속도도 빠르고 그 폭도 아주 크게 작용을 했다고 보여집니다. 아무래도 동질화된 사회, 동질성이 강한 사회다 보니까 이러한 이제 슬픔의 어떤 영향도 확산되는 속도가 워낙 빠르다 보니까 그래서 이 단기간에 소비와 관련된 위축 이런 부분도 나타나지 않나라는 생각이 듭니다.
With the nation in grief, concerts are being postponed or reduced in size to express sorrow. Singers postpone their concerts, and most of the dance and music festivals have been canceled. This exhibition event canceled other related performances and decided to maintain a calm mood to join the nation in mourning.
이번 세월호 사태와 관련해서 모든 프로그램을 다 취소한 것은 아니지만 그 프로그램 중에서 상대적으로 조금 더 조용하고 또 차분한 프로그램만을 우선적으로 진행하는 것으로 정리를 했고요. 그 외의 프로그램은 지금 국민 전체의 슬픔이 너무 크기 때문에 이런 슬픔을 가라앉고 조금 더 정리가 된 다음에 다시 보여드리려고 준비하고 있습니다.
Companies are refraining from extravagant product marketing activities. This liquor company, which introduced its new lineup on April 22nd, is not promoting its new product on TV commercials or undertaking any marketing activities.
근데 일단은 뭐 기업의 손해라는 측면보다는 일단 사회적인 분위기에 동참하는 것들이 오히려 더 기업의 입장에서는 맞을 것 같다라고 생각을 하고요. 신제품 출시에 대해서 조금 아쉽기는 하지만 그래도 뭐 꾸준히 영업 활동을 하고 있고 어떤 판촉이나 화려한 광고라든가 이런 것들은 좀 자제해야 하는 분위기가 맞을 것 같아서 뭐 그렇게 결정을 했습니다.
It was a great tragedy that has shocked many and placed the nation in great sadness. The nation and companies have temporarily turned away from immediate profit or pleasure to share the grief and sorrow of the victims and their families. Everyone is taking responsibility so that this tragedy is never repeated.
이런 일은 두 번 다시 일어나지 말아야 되겠다는 생각뿐이에요.
이 큰 이번 참사로 인해 가지고 우리 국민들이 더더욱더 노력해서 앞으로는 이러한 일이 없었으면 합니다.
아무튼 이 많은 학생들의 피해는 우리에게 앞으로 시사하는 바가 많습니다. 그래서 이번 기회를 통해서 우리 사회 경제가 더 발전되는 그런 모습을 보여줬으면 하는 게 바람입니다.
Spring is in full bloom, but our minds are engulfed with great sadness. Korea and her people will be in sorrow for some time to come, mourning for the great loss.
Last week, US President Barack Obama was in Korea, his fourth such visit, for a summit with President Park Geun-hye. With so many big-ticket items on their agenda, North Korea, the defense alliance, even Korea-Japan relations, what time was left to discuss the pressing trade and commercial issues, which include, of course, the ongoing implementation of the FTA, or Free Trade Agreement, between Seoul and Washington? Well, to answer this and related questions, we have with us an expert from Yonsei University's Graduate School of International Studies. Dr. Kim Jong-bum, welcome to Bizline.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so, well, let me just ask that very first question. They had a very, very full agenda, and from the reports I've seen in the English language and international media, not much time was spent discussing commercial and trade issues. Did these issues arise?
Well, I think these issues were very much below the surface.
Yeah.
But senior officials, I'm sure, have discussed these issues before they came here, before President Obama visited here.
Sure.
And some of these issues were resolved prior to his visit, right before his visit here. And I would say that the security issue is one pillar of alliance, but the economic cooperation is another pillar, especially CORS FTA and the issue of Korea's future participation in the TPP.
We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, there had been predictions in Korea, even before President Obama arrived, about the problems regarding the implementation, or these alleged problems regarding the implementation of the FTA. What do you see as being the key problems? We're now 2 years into the implementation.
Well, there were a couple of issues that were raised by the U.S. administration during the visit and prior to the visit. But we have to look at this CORS FTA as a very fresh agreement. And it's a very complex, comprehensive agreement. And this is the biggest free trade agreement the United States has concluded since NAFTA. And we're still at the initial stages of free trade agreement. And the key problem arises with regard to administering this free trade agreement, especially discerning or sorting out the products from the US or from Korea that deserves to be given preferential treatment. So preferential treatment about imports are all about free trade agreement.
Now, speaking about particular products or particular sectors, one of the real big barriers, both during the negotiations and even since the implementation of this deal, has been coming from the objections of the US auto sector, a very powerful sector in the US. From the first year of implementation, the Americans sold 22,600 vehicles. Now that's a rise of 51% in Korea, but that remains far, far below South Koreans' exports to the US of 704,700 vehicles. I mean, what is the problem in Korea right now for US autos?
Well, automobile issue is the second issue I was referring to. And I emphasize the fact that this is still a very fresh agreement. And with regard to automobile sector, the tariff rate has been dropped to 4% immediately upon enactment of this agreement. But it has to drop to zero. It will take another 2 years till 2016 for this to drop to zero. So it will take a few more years for the US exporters, especially Detroit automakers, to take advantage of this.
Take full advantage.
Take the full advantage of this. But we have to be aware of the fact that Korea has another FTA, Korea-EU FTA. And we already observe increasing number of foreign cars in Korean market, and especially BMW and Benz and so forth. These are European brand cars in Korean market. So we already open the market to European manufacturers as well. And the tariffs will fall around the same time for the European makers as well. So the key is that it will not be just the US manufacturer that will benefit from this, and US manufacturer has to compete with European manufacturers in the Korean market to increase their share here.
One of the issues which was very much in focus prior to the presidential visit was the issue of country of origin. What exactly was this problem, and how was this resolved?
Well, country of origin is a kind of a technical issue, but it's key to understanding free trade agreement. Well, free trade agreement is all about giving preference to imports from partner country. So non-partner countries' goods will not be treated preferentially. So even if the goods are coming from the United States, if they are largely made by elsewhere, they will not be given preferential treatment. In other words, they will not be originating goods from the US. So origin verification is very important, and under the CORS FTA, each party can do an on-site verification of the exporters from the other party. So this is kind of very rigorous, or maybe you can consider it as an intrusive verification. So this has been provided, and it was in fact provided because the US had a bigger concern about third country products coming into Korea and disguised as Korean originating products, especially concerned about Chinese manufactured goods. So we have a very rigorous process, and Korean administration, customs administration, has been applying this quite rigorously and demanding a lot of documentation. And in the process, there was a product, orange juice product imported from the U.S., and there was a concern that it might contain some Brazilian ingredients. But at the end of this investigation, they determined this was entirely U.S. made and meeting the criteria wholly obtained in the country of export. Therefore, the determination was in favor of the U.S. and they had no more concern.
Okay. Has this problem then been resolved, do you think?
This problem has been resolved, but it will not be confined to that product alone. There was a talk about another product, Toyota car, in fact.
Yeah.
This is a U.S. originating car,
Toyota,
but the question is whether this was really U.S. originating car. It must have sufficient content value coming from the U.S., either labor or manufactured components. So U.S. Korean authorities has done some verification on that product, and so this was finally granted preferential status.
Okay. Of course, when these kind of negotiations take place, when these kind of problems arise, there's always a sense that there's a winner and a loser. Do you think that there's a sense in Korea that perhaps the Korean side has taken too much or accepted too much of US demands, or is this just a constant process of give and take?
This is a constant process of give and take, and there was some talk about U.S. linking Korea's implementation of course FTA with Korea's joining TPP.
The TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
This is also speculation. I looked at the speech given by Obama, and he talks about those two issues together, but there was no clear linkage.
Right.
And in fact, implementation of course FTA has to be done in any case, and it has been operating for 2 years, and there has not been major concern. If there were, then it would have been raised up to the level of a dispute, which would go through the dispute settlement system. So as far as I see it, the issues that has been raised so far are administrative issue, verification issues, or some insufficient disclosure of information, financial information about banking sectors.
But the point you're making is that dispute resolution mechanism has not yet been required in the first, 2+ years? Okay.
So consultation was sufficient to resolve the issues, and I don't think this could be a condition for Korea's
entry to TPP.
The TPP negotiation.
But now let's move on. We've talked about the bilateral FTA. Let's talk about the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this US multilateral deal. At the end of last year, Korea expressed its interest in joining TPP. What's the latest? Where does Korea stand on this right now?
Well, Korea is waiting response from the TPP member countries.
Yeah.
And TPP negotiation has been going on for many years, and there has been more than 20 rounds already. And Japan joined in 2013. That was already a late stage. And even United States took a lead in 2009. So in the middle of the negotiation, when Singapore started this process in the beginning. So in my view, Korea is waiting the response because there was some information that this negotiation is near completion. However, that may not turn out to be the case.
Yeah.
So if it's completed treaty, then Korea will have to join the completed treaty, sign on to a completed treaty. But however, if the negotiation is prolonged, then we can
Korea will enter into the process, right?
In the middle of the process as a negotiating partner.
Okay.
So in my view, Korea is coming at a bit late in this process.
And I understand that Korea already has bilateral FTAs or regional FTAs with all those parties, with the exception of Japan and I think Mexico.
Sure.
So how important is joining TPP for Korea?
Well, we have to understand this TPP. This is a really huge deal involving many countries. And TPP for Korea, even for US, is not about entering into an FTA with a new country. It's a regional deal, and it's pulling together these countries in one regional economic integration. And I'll give you an example, for example. Malaysian product, Malaysian intermediate goods or component that is exported to Korea, and Korean manufacturer processes it and try to export the final good to the US. And under the CORS FTA, it will not receive Korean originating status.
Okay.
So, however, under the TPP, since Malaysia is part of the TPP,
deal.
this whole thing is one region. So that minimal processing done in Korea will not prohibit this final product
being exported
being
around
exported to US or any other country
Japan or any of the other
on
members.
a preferential
Sure.
basis.
As noted at the very beginning, there's been a huge amount of interest paid to North Korea, to the defense partnership, and of course even to the trilateral alliance between Tokyo, Washington and Seoul, which Washington really wants to promote. These are big, rather sexy, diplomatic, strategic issues. The economic stuff didn't get nearly as much attention from the international media. But of course there is this, as you say, this dual pillar to the Korean-American relationship, very much a security-based relationship, but also increasingly an economic-based relationship. How important is it to have these two pillars? How closely do they synchronize? How does this put the future of the relationship, having these two very distinct pillars as we look forward?
Well, in my view, they're very closely linked from the US side as well as Korean side. To begin with, on the US side, United States has concluded all these FTAs with security interests in mind all the time. Many of the Middle Eastern countries has free trade agreement with the United States, Israel, Bahrain, and so forth. So Korea is one of those countries. The United States has had security as well as economic interest in mind. And on the Korean side as well, CORS FTA was not simply about economic cooperation. It was more about cementing the alliance, and concern for the threat from the North Korea was in the back of the Korean administration all the time. So you cannot really separate these two pillars. We have security alliance on the basis of a strong economic cooperation, and CORS FTAs on the one side, and Korea-US ROK defense treaty is on the other side.
Of it.
So I think CORS FTAs are very important for Korea's security.
Gotcha. Okay. Which is something that's possibly often overlooked by economic journalists and pundits. Dr. Kim, thank you very much indeed for being on Bizline.
I appreciate this chance. Thank you.
What if you can use various tools regardless of time and space with just a smartphone without carrying a toolbox? This week's app of the week is Smart Tools, a small toolbox in the smartphone. You get curious about the actual size of a product while online shopping. Let's use a graduated ruler. Without having a separate tape line, you can measure someone's height anytime. It can also accurately measure a building's height or the distance to a building. Besides, you can use flashlight and reading glasses functions. Now, you can use them conveniently in your hands.
If you want to brighten up your office or impress your beloved, flowers are both fragrant and beautiful. The problem with flowers, of course, is that after a few days they wither and die. Hence the major market for artificial flowers. The problem with those, of course, is that they lack the fragrance and arguably the delicacy and beauty of the real thing. But now, remarkably, there are real flowers that neither wither nor die for several months. And Korea is one of only 3 countries worldwide that has the technology to create these so-called magical flowers.
Beautiful, colorful flowers. Picked flowers usually last just a week. But is there a way to keep the beauty of the flowers for a longer time? Flowers kept from withering away. Flower preservation technology is opening new opportunities in the flower market aside from fresh cut and artificial flowers. Flowers from all over the world have gathered at this flower exhibition, attracting visitors with beautiful colors and shapes they possess. Among exhibitors, there is one booth that is attracting many interests. It is where flower preservation technique is on display.
시들지 않는 꽃 되게 안 될 것 같았는데 이게 막상 눈앞에 있으니까 되게 신기하고 되게 다른 것도 있을 것 같아서 되게 기대되고 한두 송이 정도 집에 사다 놓는 것도 괜찮을 것 같아요. 가격 그렇게 부담 안 되면.
국내 지금 보존화 시장이 국내 같은 경우는 작년서부터 이렇게 좀 커브가 올라가는 게 보이기 시작했어요. 제가 처음에 시작했을 때는 정말 그 처음부터 끝까지 과정을 다 설명을 해드리고 했어요. 근데 지금은 그런 설명할 과정이 필요가 없어졌어요. 그러니까 사람들이 그 인지도나 이런 게 많이 생기고 그 시장이 이제 형성이 돼가고 있다는 거고.
With the global flower market showing strong interest on preservation, Korea's Rural Development Administration became third after France and Japan to successfully develop flower preservation technology.
생화 그대로의 질감과 형태를 그대로 장기간 보존할 수 있게 만든 꽃으로서 생화 고유의 색상에서는 볼 수 없는 다양한 색상 표현이 가능합니다. 지금 현재는 장미, 국화, 카네이션, 백합, 신비디움, 덴파레, 카라, 작약, 아디안텀, 레몬잎, 유칼립투스 등 다양한 종류의 절화, 절지 그리고 절엽 등에 적용할 수 있습니다.
The so-called magic flower is made through the three-step preservation process. Depending on the type of the flower, the process can take up to 1 week. The main process in flower preservation is dehydration. Putting the flower in an alcohol dehydrating fluid for 1 to 2 days will result in moisture and color escaping through bubbles, and then the flower turns white.
탈수를 시키는 과정에서 에탄올과 같은 용매를 사용함으로써 탈수와 동시에 탈색이 필연적으로 일어나게 되는 것입니다. 꽃의 내부 수분을 에탄올과 같은 베이스 촉매로 탈수시키고 친수성 성질이 강한 글리세린, 글리콜과 같은 보존 용액으로 치환시킵니다.
The cell wall of a dehydrated flower must be replaced with a moisture substitute to maintain the same texture as the natural flower, and it is also part of an important preservation process. In our everyday life in doing laundry, people use fabric softeners or conditioners in the last cycle. The conditioner contains fluid that traps moisture within, which helps flower petals keep their texture. During the preservation process, color is added simultaneously. On top of preserving a flower's texture and shape, Korea developed a technology to add fragrance, a skill that is considered top-notch in the world.
보존 용액 내에 유연제로 인해 알코올류가 휘발된 후에도 안정적으로 향료가 식물 세포 내에 존재하도록 함으로써 향기뿐만 아니라 질감 형태를 지속시키는 역할을 합니다. 향수처럼 장미나 백합과 같은 향을 내는 분자를 만든 뒤 이를 보존화에 첨가하는 방법으로 보존화 천연향은 약 6개월 정도 지속됩니다.
The process allows the flower to regain its liveliness, and the colors used here can be of all sorts, be it blue or even a rainbow, making it more popular. So how long do preserved flowers last?
보존화를 오래 유지하기 위해서는 적당한 습도, 약 상대 습도가 약 50% 정도가 좋습니다. 습도 및 온도를 유지해 주어야 하며 특히 장마철 습도에 주의하여야 합니다. 관리하는 장소의 조건에 따라 차이는 있겠지만 생화 그대로의 형태와 질감을 2년 이상 즐길 수 있습니다. 또한 최대 3년까지 꽃 형태를 보존할 수도 있습니다.
Preserved flowers made in Korea cost twice the regular cut flower, but it is less expensive than the imports, costing 70 to 80% of the imported price. Korea's preserved flowers proving to be high in added value. The Rural Development Administration is in technical cooperation with municipal governments such as Pyeongtaek in Gyeonggi-do Province and horticultural farms for mass production facilities.
평택시 기술센터로부터 보존화 사업이라는 것을 우리가 지원을 받아서 이렇게 좀 설립을 하게 됐습니다. 생화보다 10배 이상 참 소득이 주어질 것 같아가지고 이걸 했는데 앞으로 이것이 많이 좀 수출이 될 것 같아가지고 좋은 좀 기대가 됩니다.
국내에서는 한 전국에 5군데 정도 공장에서 현재 연간 한 100만 송 이상의 프리셔드 플라워가 생산이 시작이 됐습니다. 이 모든 생산되는 곳들은 올해서부터 5월 달서부터 수출이 시작이 되어서 전량이 해외에 수출될 예정입니다.
Currently, Japan takes 60% to 70% of the global preserved flower market, which is estimated to be around $1 billion. Through mass production of preserved flowers in the country, Korean-made preserved flowers are expected to take more than 30% of the preserved flower market in Japan. In domestic sales, preserved flowers are expected to bring back the livelihood in Korea's slumping flower market.
현재 국내 보존화 기술은 전 세계에서 생산되고 있는 보존화와 품질을 비교했을 때 절대 뒤지지 않은 기술을 가지게 되었습니다. 따라서 국내 화훼 시장의 소비 저하 및 수출 감소의 이중고를 겪고 있는 국내 화훼 생산에 있어서 새로운 화훼 가공 아이템인 보존화는 새로운 블루 오션으로 기대되기도 합니다.
Preserved flowers have risen as the largest opportunity for the horticulture farmers. It is also being highlighted as the blue ocean of the international flower market. The top-notch preserved flower processing technology in Korea will surely grow big in the international market.
The internet is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, it's a goldmine of useful information and entertainment. On the other hand, it's a muck heap of slander, rumour and plain old lies. So how to distinguish between the two? One answer may lie in social curation services, which verify the content you're surfing to ensure you get the real deal. How do these services work? Let's take a look.
How much information is generated in just a minute on Earth? About 168 million emails are sent, about 690,000 searches are made on Google, and about 700,000 updates are made on Facebook. This is an era of overflowing information, but the information you need is actually less than 1%. What is social curation? A new concept service that emerged amid floods of information?
소셜미디어상에 많이 있는 정보를 누군가가 주체가 돼서 일정한 기준에 맞춰서 사람들이 더 보기 쉽게 이렇게 카테고라이징을 다시 해서 재구성한 형태, 그것을 소셜 큐레이션이라고 보면 됩니다.
Pinterest is considered as the originator of social curation. It is a curation service that enables users to easily scrap photos and images that suit their tastes. Since the service began, it has been receiving explosive responses, marking the third place after Facebook and Twitter in terms of number of US visitors.
포털 사이트나 아니면 일반 기존의 어떤 신문이나 어떤 다른 웹사이트들을 돌아다니면서 다 개별적으로 정보를 찾고 선별적으로 이제 이용을 해야 했다면 최근에 나온 어떤 핀터레스트나 뭐 이런 어떤 진짜 소셜 큐레이션을 중심으로 한 어떤 그런 플랫폼들은 그런 관계를 넘어서서 어떤 취향과 관심사를 공유하는 사람들끼리 그것을 통해서 네트워킹이 형성이 되고 또 그런 네트워크를 통해서 정보를 내가 얻어낼 수 있으니까 이용자 입장에서 굉장히 효율적이고 좋은 거죠.
As it gained popularity in the US, Korean people's interest in social curation is also growing. Social curation has emerged as a new marketing market, not only for ordinary users, but also for companies. Services adopting social curation are also appearing one after another. Showcase is a shopping search curation platform about 2,000 people visit each day. Unlike the existing shopping platforms that find you the cheapest product, its objective is to find the product you want the most.
다른 쇼핑몰 같은 경우는 원피스 한 가지만 나오는데 이곳은 여러 제휴 상품들을 한눈에 볼 수 있고 다양한 상품들을 컬렉션으로 묶어서 제가 볼 수 있을 때 언제든지 볼 수 있어서 편리한 것 같습니다.
As if word of mouth has a large impact on product purchases, you can find the product you need by following the hashtag of the style you want or the user you want to take after the style, even if you don't visit various shopping malls one by one.
물건을 파는 사이트가 아니라 물건을 팔고 있는 모든 쇼핑몰들의 상품 데이터를 모아서 유저들이 상품을 찾게 도와주는 서비스입니다. 실제로는 저희 사이트에도 400만 개의 상품이 돌아가고 있지만 사실 제가 보고 싶은 건 아마도 100개가 안 되지 않을까 싶은데요. 그게 가능하도록 구조를 잡아 놓은 겁니다.
Vingle is a social network service based on interest. It is a space where users with the same tastes gather based on their interest and share information. To use the Vingle service, you first need to select your interest. You can basically get only the information you need within the collection you are interested in. You can also create a content yourself by adding the information you have obtained here with the information you already have.
So the cards are put up and posted by our users. They can, as mentioned, reference their own pictures and videos, outside pictures and videos. They can link to articles that they're finding interesting. But what we really encourage is they're not just pulling that in as is, they're often adding their own thoughts as they share the link that, they're directing people to, hey, look at this article. They're sharing their own thoughts and creating a conversation around that outside content, which becomes new content within our community.
Like this, by adding new information to existing information, knowledge on interest is expanded and recreated. We can also find curation services from the news we encounter every day. PPSS operates based on a social network service. Although it was established only a year and 5 months ago, it doesn't lag behind existing news providers, with about 20,000 recommendations by Facebook and about 10,000 Twitter followers. Rather than news briefs people can easily encounter at portals, it curates news with analytic stories from experts.
뉴스 자체를 아예 여기는 추려주거나 관심사를 팔로우하면 이제 좋은 기사를 계속해서 던져주는 그러한 서비스들이 점점 커지고 있거든요. 그래서 이제 한국에서도 어떠한 계기가 일어난다면 누군가가 투자를 할 수도 있고 어떤 서비스가 계속해서 런칭이 되다 보면은 조금씩 큐레이션 영역에 있어서 포션이 커지지 않을까 싶습니다.
Social curation is a new SNS platform that will lead Twitter and Facebook. As social media develops and information on the internet increases, social curation services will also expand further. But some problems need to be solved first.
큐레이션을 통해서 조합된 정보의 어떤 신뢰성, 이 정보가 얼만큼이나 믿을 수 있는 정보고, 사람들이 이제 그런 것들을 그냥 무차별적으로 이제 믿고 거기에 따라서 행동하고 했을 때 어떤 사회적인 파급 효과가 어떨 것인가에 대해서 우리가 아직은 잘 모르기 때문에 그런 부분들이 좀 우려가 좀 크고요.
소셜 큐레이션을 하는 주체는 사실은 원 저작자가 아닙니다. 그렇기 때문에 반드시 저작권 이슈가 발생을 할 수가 있어서 거기에 따라 지켜야 할 여러 가지 규약이 있죠. 그래서 그 부분에 있어서 업계 내의 자정 노력도 많이 필요할 것 같고요. 그리고 정부에서의 일정 부분의 규제나 계도가 필요한 상황이라고 생각합니다.
Social curation emerged as the next generation SNS platform. If the issues of credibility and copyrights can be resolved, social curation's influence is likely to grow further.
Society's art provides a window through which to view that society. And in this respect, North Korea is no different from any other nation. Now, the dominant style of art inside North Korea is the so-called Chosun painting. And it's no surprise to learn that Kim Il-sung's Juche ideology is well represented in this genre. It'll also be no surprise to learn that an official state body exists which promotes the idolization of the regime through art.
What are the first things that come to mind when you think of North Korean artworks? Most people think of propaganda posters and statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the country's deceased leaders.
사회주의 국가에서는 일찍부터 문화예술을 이제 혁명의 도구로 활용하기 시작했었고요.
Artists are also guided to clearly express not only messages but also subjects in their works.
북한 미술뿐만 아니라 북한의 모든 문학 예술, 그다음에 이제 방송, 언론 모든 매체들에 있어서 핵심이 되는 건 인민성이라고 하는 원리고요. 인민성이라고 하는 것은 예술이나 이런 표현문들이 인민을 위해서 봉사를 해야 되기 때문에 인민들이 이해할 수 없는 예술은 진정한 예술이 아니다라고 보는 것들이죠. 그래서 북한 미술은 추상이라고 하는 개념이 없습니다.
There is no doubt that North Korean arts are influenced by the socialist realism. But North Korean art went one step further to evolve from socialist realism after the country's founder Kim Il-sung ordered that such works must have Korean context.
60년대 중반이 되면 김일성이 선언을 하는 거죠. 우리의 미술을 조선화를 중심으로 발전시키자. 이런 그걸 도구마적 강령으로 제시해 주는 거죠. 그러면서 어떻게 그 사회주의 리얼리즘이 요구하는 민족적 형식에 대한 고민이 그냥 이렇게 단숨에 정리가 되는 거죠.
Based on such instruction, North Korea's Juche art was born, with an emphasis on nationalism and Chosunhwa, or Korean oil painting, developed into the country's classic art form. Chosunhwa, which depicts subjects clearly in a succinct way, has become a great tool to deliver political messages in North Korea.
북한식 리얼리즘은 감격, 기쁨, 그 다음에 미래에 대한 전망, 당연히 이렇게 열심히들 하고 있으니 나중에 어떻게 될 거냐는 게 당연히 투사되어야 하는 거고, 그런 식으로 북한의 주체 리얼리즘은, 그러니까 주체적 사실주의는 미술이 그냥 객관적인 사실에 있는 그들의 묘사가 아니라 막 이렇게 주관적 개입이, 그러니까 두드러진 작품이어야 한다.
Main themes of Chosunhwa center around socialist revolution and portraits of not only the country's late leaders, but also workers, miners, and children that look happy to be living in North Korea. Political messages are depicted even in paintings of factories operating at full blast with their smoking chimneys and landscapes of revolutionary sites. In North Korea, where arts have developed mostly based on instructions and guidance of the country's dictators to support the personal cult of the Kim dynasty, artists seem to have no freedom.
아이들한테 그림 한 장, 석사 한 장에도 거기에는 자기가 표현하고자 하는 이제 주체성과 또 사상성 이런 것이 정확하게 이제 반영이 되어야 되고 선 하나에 이르기까지도 행동하면서도 그게 자기 반영하고자 하는 그러한 사회 이미지를 북한에서는 먼저 생각하고 교육을 하다 보니까 미술에서는 이제 자기의 자유라는 거는 찾아볼 수가 없죠.
Also, the greatest honor for North Korean painters or sculptors is to draw portraits of Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il.
북한에서는 그 누구나 다 인정되지 않으면 그 많은 미술가들이 다 김일성과 김정일의 사진을 그릴 수가 없다는 거죠.
The country runs a number of art institutions nationwide to train artists to help spread political messages, and the Pyongyang University of Fine Arts is the nation's most prestigious art school. The Mansudae Art Studio is the country's and probably the world's biggest art studio, employing nearly 4,000 workers, including about 1,000 artists.
만수대 창작사 같은 경우는 이제 주체 미술에 대해 전성기이자 이제 기제라고 보고 있고, 그 안에 10개 정도의 분야별 창작, 소규모 창작단이 또 따로 있습니다. 그러니까 각 분야별로 장르별 다 나눠져 있어가지고 각 소속에서 필요한, 국가적으로 필요한 사업들을 거기서 그려내는 것들이죠.
The cash-strapped socialist country also started to use these artists more actively to funnel foreign currency in the 2000s.
거기 조각 창작단 같은 경우 웨어버리 사업으로 가죠. 그래서 대형 작품을 많이 만드는 경험이 있기 때문에 해외에서도 좀 선호하는 편이죠. 왜냐하면 큰 작품을 저렴하게, 싸고 저렴하게 경제적으로 만들 수 있는 그런 경쟁력을 북한은 가지고 있습니다.
The Mansudae Art Studio also sells Chosunhwa paintings by Mansudae painters through the internet. One American tour agency specializing in North Korean travels introduced a DPRK art tour last year, targeting Western artists who have interests in North Korean arts.
이질적인 것에 대한 욕구. 그 이질적이면서도 일단은 그것이 추상화처럼 이렇게 난해하거나 어렵지 않고 일단은 당장 그게 뭘 그러는지를 확인하기 되게 쉬운 데다가 굉장히 맑고 그 다음에 기본적으로 쾌적한 색깔들, 뭐 그들식으로 쾌적하다고 얘기하지만 어찌됐건 이런 것들이 어떻든 북한 미술에 대한 수요를 만들고 있는 것 같기도 합니다.
Of course, those works for sales outside of the country are less political, and North Korean paintings and sculptures grab people's attention with great dexterity. But at the same time, they are often criticized for the lack of variety. That is why some people say Pyongyang arts represent a North Korean society completely under control.
북한 같은 경우 아무래도 체제가 가지고 있는 틀, 형식적인 틀에 많이 좌우되다 보니까 표현되어지는 수단이라든가 이런 것들이 굉장히 좀 익숙하고 좀 반복적인 것들이 많이 있죠. 아무래도 북한 체제 전체가 그런 새로운 것을 경험할 수 있는 게 제한되다 보니까 표현할 수 있는 방법이라든가 이런 데서 좀 한계가 있습니다.
우리가 생각하는 의미에서 예술적 가치라든가 개성의 구가, 특히 천재 개념 자체를 북한에서는 거부하고 있기 때문에 그런 식의 그런 우리의 관점에서 걔네 그 가치 있는 예술 작품들, 우리의 가치를 이렇게 적용해서 가치 있는 예술 작품을 찾아낸다는 건 쉬운 일이 아니다.
It is a shame that art has been used as a means to instill loyalty to the Kim family among the general public, rather than allowing artists to freely and creatively express themselves. North Korean leaders should give its artists more freedom of expression.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But do join us again next week. We'll be looking at China's yellow dust, the problems it causes right here in Korea, and some of the technologies and industries which are trying to deal with it. We'll also be looking at a technology sharing project which distributes patents to small and medium-sized companies for free. So do join us then. But that's it for now. I'm Andrew Salmon. This was Bizline. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.